Hi everybody, my name is Kes and I'm going to be doing a series of interviews with successful entrepreneurs, whether that be here in Montana or across the country. And my goal is to collect some advice from people who have been through it in business, been through it in life, to help people like myself, college students, people in their 20s, just kind of gain a sense of direction and learn from people who have done it already. So my first interview is going to be with James Chapman, who is the owner of Black Coffee Roasting Company here in Missoula, Montana. And let's get started.
Why coffee? I like that question a lot. I've done a ton of interviews and talked to folks throughout that are interested in business and things. And that's actually a question I've never been asked. It's pretty interesting. I love coffee is why. I was working in wine and back before we started Black Coffee.
Okay.
And I really liked the wine industry far more than I expected to when I first started it. And I was just doing sales, but over the course of it, I got to meet a lot of the wine makers, and always thought it was really interesting. My favorite part of the business was meeting the people actually growing the wine and then making the wine, and getting to see their hands-on skills, what they were getting to learn. And actually I was invited to come work with a guy over in Washington.
Okay.
And it would have required upheaval moving my family over there, which I didn't really want to do.
Yeah.
But it made me realize that I like physical, tangible products more than digital products.
Okay.
And in my brain, I just very quickly went from, well, wine you have to do in wine growing areas. Coffee, you don't. It's grown in the tropics and it's always shipped to country and then dealt with. And kind of on a reckless whim, I decided I could do that. And
Okay.
I literally had the idea driving across town one night. I came home and I told my wife that I had this idea. I'm a person of 10,000 ideas per week. I have a lot of ideas. And that one, when we started talking about it, we were like, yeah, we could do this. I prefer coffee to alcohol anyway. I like to have a beer, but I'm not a heavy drinker. And from a larger philosophical standpoint, I am not convinced alcohol is the best thing for society. Coffee is also not a perfect industry. I don't want to pretend it is, but has a lot of potential for social good that I can relate to, and I thought that I could help be a part of. So that combined with just the fact that I love it, and then when I started playing with coffee, realized, for some reason my brain understands this particularly well, and I'm good at this, and I can get better at it, and there's a lot to learn, and I like things like that where there's more than just one facet to grasp. I like being challenged to learn, keep going. And coffee checked all those boxes for me. And I really love the start to finish. My favorite part of the coffee world is the coffee farms. Just like wine, I kind of gravitate to where it comes out of the ground, and the people who deal with it on that level.
Right.
But it's really a neat thing to track from ground to consumer, and it's fun to get to be in that chain of events. So
That's really
That-
cool, especially I think, with companies being so big nowadays, you don't really see that process, or consumers just aren't aware of, the
Mhm.
start to finish. So I do agree, and I like that perspective. Um, if you don't mind, I'm just going to ask you my second question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So it says here, it's evident that you have a strong affinity for the state of Montana and its communities. How have they influenced your core values in business, and how have they influenced your personal brand?
I moved here in the 90s, and I knew from the day I arrived, I pulled into the gas station down by kind of on the hip strip there. And that was my first stop in town. And I kind of looked around and I saw Mount Sentinel, Mount Jumbo, Lolo to the south. And I was just like, wow, I'm definitely staying here. Like, this is,
Yeah.
I came from the Midwest, I came from Indiana. Um, and I think what I love about Montana, about the West, a lot of special places in the West in particular, is there's still a lot of open space. There's still a lot of quiet space to think. There's still space where you can get away from the sounds of humans, which is really important for me. My brain works best in remote areas. And I just really enjoy it. It's, even if my brain isn't working, that's where I enjoy being. I knew it was something that if I could ever contribute to help take care of the components that I love about Montana, that if I was financially able to support organizations, or if I was personally able to get involved with organizations, or if I was personally just able to influence people to help see a bigger or different picture, that I would do that. And that's what I've tried to do with Black Coffee, and tried to do just for my own self too. Just, I don't like the idea of like personal brand. That one's tough for me.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea. It's just impossible to not acknowledge the fact that, especially if you're involved in social media, and even if you just know people, that people look at what their friends are doing, look at what people they're around are doing, and if they intend to or not, they're going to be influenced by those people. And so it's just kind of a built-in like sense of personal responsibility that you help promote the great things and try to help direct people who are having, who don't see it maybe as a great thing, or just don't know about it. Like,
Right. Yeah. And I agree. I think those are valid and pretty big reasons.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, my third question is, I see that you have some hobbies like photography, writing, geography, and obviously roasting coffee. Most students like myself have hobbies and passions, but we don't know where to start when incorporating those into a successful career. So what has worked for you when transferring your passions to more than that, into a career?
Yeah. So I'm into a lot of things. And I'd say in my 20s, I really had the goal. I've always loved writing. I started writing, I think when I was 12 or 13, I think it was 12. And I started writing short stories. And writing to this day is the thing that I definitely hold closest to my heart. It's what I love the most. It's where my brain works the best. It's like what I love. In my 20s, I was fully convinced I was going to monetize it and I was going to do it for a living. And I never figured it out. I kept doing it, but I never figured out how to monetize it in a way where I was like, yeah, I can make a living doing this.
Right,
I
yeah.
have friends who did, but I just didn't ever, the type of writing I love to do, it just never worked. So I quickly realized that, one, I'm not going to stop writing. Two, it doesn't actually matter if it becomes popular, famous, makes money or not, because ultimately what I've eventually realized is I just love it. I love literally the act of writing. I love
Totally.
sitting down. I love the quiet. I love the typing. I love the write with a pen. I love thinking through words. Um, and I'm far better at putting them down on a computer or on a piece of paper than I am talking. I'm an
Okay.
okay talker, but I'm a much better writer. Um, so then, then thinking about work, I was like, well, what am I gonna? We're kind of told this story by society that you just do what you love and you'll make it work. And I kind of find that's bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
um, work is work, and work is hard, and it's often something we don't necessarily love to do. But it's part of contributing to society, and it's part of building a life for yourself. So in with regards to like passion and work, the thing that I think about is that you don't have to be passionate about work. And often if you I found myself, I invested in this job doing wine, which quite honestly, when I got it, I think I was 30. We just had a baby. I just finished grad school, and I had done really cool jobs up to that point in my life. As a 20 something, I was the epitome of like work, 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 go play, 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 work, work,
Yeah.
work, work 3 jobs, boom, 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 and then play.
Okay.
Um, when I had a kid, our first kid, I just realized like, wow, that's not really that's not the path I want to raise a kid on. So I took this job that honestly, I felt a little depressed about taking. I was like, this is like everything I don't want to be doing. Like I have to dress up more. I have to have a schedule.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but what I found is I'm somebody who typically, when I decide to enter an arena, I'm like, I'm in. I'll do this. Like, it's not my ideal scenario, but what the hell? Like, let's try this. And what I found is with that job that I definitely did not have a passion for, um, I was really lucky in that the people I worked with were awesome,
Yeah.
and I committed to going all in on it. And I suddenly was learning things that I never knew I'd even be interested in, and suddenly was learning skill sets that I didn't know would ever pertain to my own life. And ultimately, I would say that those years working for that company are what very much made Black Coffee work. Because if I hadn't learned those skill sets, which one of them is actually taps into a later question, but is networking.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't learned that skill set doing a job that I had 0 passion for, but decided to commit to anyway, I think that Black Coffee would not have worked, because
Yeah.
one, I just learned how to show up for the hard days, and commit to them and do them. Passion is important. I still have writing. I write almost every day. I do photography every single day. Geography is what I went to graduate school for, and I'm just into it. Like I just am a dork for maps and Central Asia. Probably a third of those books are Central Asian, like history.
Okay.
It's just what I'm into. And again, I could have found work doing that, but it just didn't, my path didn't go that way. So I feel like it's important to like have those things, but I feel like society, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, 5 years even, really says if you love a thing, that's what you should be doing all the time. And I don't buy that. I think you're allowed to have things that you love and do that are just for you, for no one else. You don't have to put it on social media. You don't have to share it with anybody. Hobbies. I mean, hobbies are great. They're personal. They're like what you're into. And sometimes your work is still work. I mean, I love black coffee. I love roasting coffee. But it's work. It's not like if I had the day free, I'd probably go fishing. Luckily, coffee is a thing that I really do love. And I've figured out how to make it work for my life. And I like to think have improved a lot of, like helped bring a community together and make people's lives better, both from like coffee growers who I buy from and they get a good price for their coffee, as well as like the consumers who, you know, have what I like to think is better coffee to drink. Photography is kind of a fun one for me because I was into it when I was younger and I kind of got out of it. And then with black coffee, I quickly realized, wow, we need good photography. Like that's with social media and marketing, this is like key. And so I went all in, like dove in deep to it. I'm still deep in it. And I love it. It honestly scratches an itch that writing also scratches, but writing really requires like a little more solitary time, a lot of like sit in a room by yourself time. Whereas photography is a thing I can do with my kids. I can be around people and doing it. I can like integrate it throughout my whole day. And it's pretty low commitment on time level in the sense of, you know, writing, I need like an hour just to get going. Ideally, I like 2 hours.
Totally.
To really get like, you know, 1,000 words on the page. But photography is like, snap a picture. I can snap 50 pictures. When I get to editing, I'm great. I love it. It's creative. It's fun, but it's not the same time commitment.
Okay. So I think that's a really good thing to hear, especially as a college student and someone who kind of faces that question myself on a daily basis, is do you have to have your passions incorporated into your work? Because that's what we hear from most professors, I'd say, and just, you know, adults giving you advice. And I think that puts a lot of pressure and kind of takes away from those hobbies a little bit, at least that I've found, you know, having to monetize on those things just, I don't know, it doesn't make it as fun, in my opinion.
I completely agree. You know, my wife is an incredible cook, like incredible. She's like, the food she makes, she could easily start a restaurant if she ever wanted. And she has always said, she's worked in restaurants, but never in the kitchen. And she's always said that the reason she won't is because the minute she does, she won't love cooking at home. And I think I agree with you. I think that social media and a lot of those people who are teaching say, you know, you have to have passion for good, satisfying work. I kind of disagree. I think you can be passionate about things that are not your passion. And I try to do that with any job I've ever taken. Like even as a landscaper, as a cabin builder, as a tree planter, those weren't my life goals. But I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it for a while. And I'm going to like see what I can do and dive in and get passionate about it. Right. And then I'm going to move on and do something different. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's okay. That's what I tell my kids to do. I'm like, explore the world. When you go into a thing, commit to it, go all in, and you can always change the thing later. Like, you get bored with it, or you start to feel down about it, or it's just not working, be it monetarily or just mentally. Like, we'll cross that bridge when you get to it. But if this world doesn't work not working, you have to work, you have to commit, you have to add to society. So why not go all in and just do it? Like, learn something new, learn something you don't even know you don't know. That's how I feel.
I like that attitude. I like that approach. I think it makes a lot more sense, and takes pressure off of people my age, you know, who haven't figured it out quite yet. So I like that.
Yeah. I think about photography a lot because I know a ton of people who are in photography, and I only know maybe 2 of them that actually make a living doing it. And, you know, again, I'm like beating on social media here, but I believe it needs to be beat up on a little bit. You know, they tell you like, oh, you can make your living doing this. It's like, photography is probably the hardest industry in the world to enter right now, because you go on Instagram, there are like 4 billion people that are taking great photos every single day. And it's like ridiculous to think that the world can afford this many photographers actually making a living doing it. So not that it's impossible, but at the same time, if that's what you love doing, then do it. But just don't think that you have to monetize it. Like, do it for the love of doing it. And then sometimes you just have to monetize in other ways. And it's okay. You'll work during the day and you've got the whole night to play. And I don't know. It's like division of life, you know?
I like that. So they can be mutually exclusive is the point, and that
Yes.
can still work out.
Yep.
Okay. I really do like that. I'm going to skip down to this question because I feel like it flows pretty well right here. Was there ever a time where you thought your business was unachievable or approaching failure? And what did you do if that was the case?
Yeah, that's a good one. The time that I thought it was approaching failure was before we started it, which at its surface doesn't sound right, but I'll explain why. Um, we I didn't start it lightly. Like, I'm a person who, I went to graduate school. I know how to research things. I enjoy the process of research. Um, Writing a business plan for Black Coffee was definitely harder than writing my thesis for graduate school. It didn't take as much, well, no, it did take about the same amount of time, I'd say, actually. But it was partly because I had no background in business, and partly because the consequences were severe. Like I said, I had a new baby. I had um, I had a good job. It wasn't great. It was a
Yeah.
good job. Um, but I was busy. I was working full time and then very much committed to being present with my family. And here I was writing this plan for a thing that was going to require every cent I had in in my life, and was going to require like putting my house on the line. I had no family backing. I didn't have like a pile of money to work with.
Right.
This was like bootstrap startup. And so the consequences were severe. Like, this has to work or I'm not going to do this.
Right.
Because I have a stable job and it would be stupid to walk away from this if this dream thing isn't going to work. It's like saying I'm going to sell this screenplay for $1 million. Like, there's no guarantee of that, none. And so
Yeah.
writing the business plan, we went through several periods of, oh, sweet, like I think these numbers work, this plan works. And then we would like look at them, and then like, oh my God, no, those numbers don't work. Like, we are definitely going to fail. Like, that
Yeah.
doesn't play out right. And we went through a lot of back and forth with that, and we luckily had really sound advice from our banker that we worked with,
Okay.
and a couple people in business development that we worked with. And they asked hard questions, and basically were like, if you can't answer hard questions, you should not be doing this. So when we actually got going, I felt pretty confident in our ability to pull it off. By that point, it took a year of writing a business plan. Since after that happened, I continued to work full time for 2 years.
Okay.
And I worked Black Coffee early mornings and very late at night. And I was actually very terrible about being present for my family for that 2 year period.
Yeah.
But everyone was on board, knew what we all agreed this is what we're doing.
Okay.
And I would say that during that period, I wasn't so much worried about it failing. I was just worried about, will this ever be sane? Like, I need this to be sane eventually, because what I did there for a few years is not sustainable as a human being. Like, it just
Right.
physically tears you apart, mentally tears you apart. But I was like, I've got a couple of years in me. Like, I'm high energy, I can do this.
Right.
We've hit hiccups along the way where it's like, oh shit, that is a big mistake. Like, wow, that's a financial blow. But we've always recovered, and I've never been concerned about my ability to make it work. So like I said, I think that my biggest doubts came before we started. And I think that anyone who's starting a business, the more you do before you actually start, the better. And willingness to accept extremely hard questions, and answer them honestly, because, starting a company is based on sales of a widget, be
Right.
it a digital asset, be it a physical asset. You're selling a thing. And the biggest problem that I see people make when they start businesses, that we tried our best to avoid, is I'm going to sell 100,000 of these units the first month. Like, you hear that story again on social media, like, oh, success, 3 months in, I'm a millionaire. That's
Right.
BS. Like, that is
Yeah.
like 1 in 5 billion. Like, that's ridiculous. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
And those who do usually have more to their story in the background that's silent than, that no one knows about.
And they're telling, right?
Yeah, the typical average person starting a business is in for a very slow takeoff, a very slow climb, and
Yeah.
it's going to be really hard. So I like for people to think through the challenges, the realities of selling. Like, how are you going to sell? How are you going to reach consumers? Why do they want to buy yours over someone else's? The biggest question I think a lot of people make, or the biggest mistake that business people make, is not looking at reality of how much they're going to make off each product sold. Because it's like, oh, bag of coffee sells for $15. Great, you make $15. Oh God, no, like not even close. Like, there's insurance, there's rent, there's insurance on the building. There's so many
Right.
things pull away from that profit margin. And if you don't know the right questions to ask building a business plan, you're not even going to come close to having a real number in your head of what you're going to make at the end of the day.
Totally. So you'd say, just to sum it up, being thorough as possible and prepared.
Yeah. And being sure that you aren't bouncing your ideas off of an echo chamber, but actually going to people at a business development thing. Like in Missoula, we have, I forget, they changed their name a few years ago, but they're downtown. They help people develop business plans. Or banks are great. If they're going to loan you money, they're not going to loan you money till you have a thorough plan. Our banker was awesome. He was like, how much are napkins? I was like, napkins? What do you mean? We just have napkins. He's like, you're not going to just have napkins. You have to buy the napkins. I was like, oh, you're right. He's like, what about stirs? I don't see stirs on here. It's like, just the little things, which it's not just little things. There's big things too that he pushed us on. But so it's really important just to not just like, I have this idea, my friend thinks it's awesome, we're going to do it. Like, no, like you gotta go further than that. So
that is good. And I think social media is a terrible place to view people starting businesses, just because it seems so easy and it seems so, you have a passion, you have an idea, turn it into a business, and then all of a sudden you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You don't see any of the behind the scenes stuff, and I think that intimidates a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump to this question right here. If there's a specific time period in your life that you would go back to and cherish more, what would that time period be, and what would you cherish about it?
Man, I'm somebody who, I've been lucky that I really have liked my whole life. I've had a good one. I'm not saying I haven't had challenges, but I just luckily have this brain that like embraces life very much. So, I mean, I had a ball in my 20s. I have done everything outside. After college, I did a pretty traditional 4-year college and then finished. And after that, I'd say I very much just kind of followed this path of, I'm curious about this. That was cool. I'm curious about this. Let's go see what that looks like. So I'm currently like, I love pretty much every era that I've been through. Even awesome. With the hard things that I've had. I'm really enjoying my current phase. My only thing I wish I had more of right now is because my kids are getting bigger. One's 17 and one's 13. And, you know, my daughter's a senior and I can see the writing on the wall. She's going to be leaving.
Oh,
And I would give anything for more time with my kids right now.
yeah.
And so I'm really literally like actively trying to make my life a little more sane so I have time with them. So because I'm like, the writing's on the wall, they're on their way, and I'll never get this time right now back. I worked a ton in my 30s and early 40s, but I mean, I've liked it all. I like the hard work. I like the challenges. I like the relationships that come and go. I've met incredible people through every step of my life, from being a teenager all the way through now. I mean, some of my best friends I've met in the last 10 years. And I like that you asked like who I'm inspired by. And I'm honestly inspired by some of my best friends. Who are just people who are doing awesome things and push me to do better things. I got an email from a friend earlier today who saw some of my work and he totally called me out. He's like, this is like subpar. Why is this out in public? And I was like,
no,
totally right. I put it out in a hurry, and you're right. That is subpar work on my part. Thank you. Like,
might have been subpar work, but that is a great friend.
Right?
Yeah.
No. He's my best friend, and you know, he knows what I'm capable of, and when he sees less of it, he called me out today on it. And those are the people I'm inspired by. Like, I can usually sense when I'm getting bored and sense when I'm becoming mediocre. And usually when that happens, I'll throw a wrench at myself and like try to up my game to something new if I need something new. And photography's been cool because I've gotten to do a bunch of work in it now outside of Black Coffee. And that is a push for me. It's like learning a new thing. It's learning to interact on a new level of business with new people, with other businesses that have other visions than my own, and working for them. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. I think is, if there's a time you could cherish more, it'd be right now. I think that's always kind of a great answer.
Yeah, that's kind of my answer, I guess, for that, because you can't go back. Like, I did what I could. I've always done what I could. I luckily can look back, and I mean, I can see a couple little eras where I was like, man, I was a little bit maybe too lazy during that period of time, but they were short, and it was like learning lessons. And
you have to be sometimes, right, in order to motivate yourself. I really like that. That's something I'm probably personally going to take away from this the most. Yeah, I really like that. Which leads me to my last question. Looks like we have about 5 minutes here. What advice would you give to people in their 20s?
Oh man, I love this question because I have an almost 20-year-old, and we're talking to her about her future plans here. I have a couple. One is, when you commit to a job, even if you don't like it, work hard at it. Like, why not? Just commit to it and do it, because you can always change it down the road. Two, explore. Like, don't follow the path that your parents wanted for you or your grandparents wanted for you, or that social media tells you. Get off the screen, do less social media, connect with real humans, and explore. Like, not just explore geographically, but explore avenues that you think you have no interest in, and just see about it. Like,
that's
see
huge.
the thing that, look for the things you don't know. And then when you commit to a thing, like, go all in. Like, I had jobs all through my 20s that were weird and dumb jobs, but I met great people doing them. And I showed up and I worked hard. And the weird thing is, when you do that and you work hard, you suddenly, like, one, as a business owner now, but also as somebody who it happened to all the time in my 20s, the people in charge notice and they're like, wow, you are awesome at cutting meats. Do you want to do more than that? Like, you're really good at like landscaping. Do you want to be a foreman? Those were conversations I had. And eventually I was like, nope, I'm not into landscaping. I'm going to go learn how to build log cabins now. But and two is just don't follow the path that other people lay out for you, because every person's an individual and you just gotta go your own way. Like there is no right or wrong way to do this life. Like the rules are not set in stone here, and you're allowed to deviate and try new things and go to other countries and like I don't know.
Yeah.
I use social media. I'm on it more than I like, but I've used it to meet real humans, and it's been awesome. At least one of my best friends I met on Instagram, and we eventually met in person, and then we started hanging out in person, and now I hang out with them all the time. And so don't let the synthetic world of the digital control your brain. Like the real world's outside, not on the screen. That's my biggest piece of advice, I think. And one more thing, especially for 20s and 30s, is you don't have to do it all in your 20s. Like I literally was the master of not making money in my 20s. and you don't have to. Like you only have to take care of yourself and whoever you bring into this world, and if you choose to, you know. And it's like I meet a lot of people in their 20s who are like, I have to do it all now. It's like, you got time to do it later. Like
that's perfect. I'm so sorry, this is telling me it's less than a minute away from ending. That's a perfect note to end on, and thank you so much again. I really appreciate you being
here. And shoot me questions if you have more. I'm happy to type them out for you, whatever.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. You too.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Bye. So unfortunately, my Zoom meeting got cut off a little bit short just because I don't have the upgraded version of Zoom, but he was able to answer another question that I had and send it over to me. So I'm just going to read that to you guys and let you know what he said. One other key thing I meant to talk about and forgot to mention, especially for anyone starting a business, is that what everyone starting a business should know, that the thing you are selling or doing is only a very small part of the business. Coffee is very important and ultimately determines as the foundation of our endeavors as to if we can be successful or not, but coffee is a small part of what I actually do. Once a quality product is established, running a business is many things besides the thing you think it is when you start. I wish I'd been told that before I started. Starting, you focus almost solely on the product, but you quickly learn running a business is so much more than a product. To this day, I'm still learning about so many things beyond just the product. Sorry for the last minute addition, and I don't know how it works to add it here, but something I wish I'd known earlier. It is the end of the day now. It is pretty late, but I just wanted to say I'm super grateful to James for agreeing to come out and do this interview with me. I know I learned a ton, and I hope you guys did as well. And if you want to see more people talk about business and their successes and failures, then stay tuned and check out the rest of my videos. And yeah, thanks.